Welcome to another episode of our channel. Today we're exploring one of the most disturbing aspects of human nature: when genius meets evil. Intelligence is often celebrated as one of humanity's greatest virtues. But what happens when brilliant minds choose to use their gifts for dark purposes? Get ready to meet 10 individuals who prove that high IQ doesn't mean elevated morality. Before we begin, I need to make a warning. This video discusses real crimes and psychopathic behavior. The content may be disturbing. And remember, we're exploring these cases to understand, not to glorify. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next videos. Let's start our list with someone who redefined the concept of the intellectual serial killer. Number 10. Edmund Kemper, the giant with genius. Edmund Kemper had an IQ of 145, placing him in the genius range. At 6 feet 9 inches tall and over 280 pounds, he was an imposing figure. But his true strength was in his sharp mind and his terrifying capacity for psychological manipulation. Between 1972 and 1973, Kemper murdered 10 people, including his own mother and grandparents. But what makes him particularly disturbing isn't just the number of victims, but the cold and calculated methodology he applied to each crime. Kemper studied his victims, planned meticulously, and then analyzed his own crimes with clinical objectivity that shocked even experienced investigators. His intelligence manifested in terrifying ways. He could repeatedly deceive psychiatrists, being released from a mental institution at 21, despite having murdered his grandparents at 15. He memorized standard psychological tests and knew exactly which answers to give to appear rehabilitated. Kemper was obsessed with understanding the human mind. He spent hours talking with police officers in bars, feigning casual interest in investigation procedures. He was actually studying how they thought, what mistakes criminals typically made, how to avoid being caught. He turned law enforcement into his own criminal education course. When he finally turned himself in voluntarily, Kemper participated in extensive interviews with the FBI, helping develop psychological profiles of serial killers. His articulation, self-analysis, and understanding of his own psychopathy were so advanced that he became one of the most important case studies in forensic psychology. He could describe his impulses, his fantasies, his thought processes, with a clarity that few criminals achieve. To this day, decades after his life sentence, Kemper continues to be studied. His interviews are used to train FBI agents. The combination of superior intelligence with absolute lack of empathy makes him one of the purest examples of how genius can be twisted in terrible directions. Number 9. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber mathematician. Theodore Kaczynski was a genuine academic prodigy. Accepted to Harvard at 16, he completed his doctorate in mathematics at Michigan and became the youngest assistant professor in the history of the University of California at Berkeley. His contributions to function theory were considered brilliant by his peers. But in 1971, Kaczynski abandoned everything. He moved to an isolated cabin in Montana without electricity or running water and began a terror campaign that would last almost 2 decades. Between 1978 and 1995, he built and sent 16 homemade bombs that killed 3 people and injured 23 others. What made Kaczynski particularly dangerous was his combination of mathematical genius with exceptional practical skills. Each bomb was a work of meticulous engineering, designed to cause maximum damage while avoiding detection. He didn't use traceable materials, left no fingerprints, fabricated custom components. Many of his bombs were so sophisticated that FBI experts admitted they had never seen anything like them. But Kaczynski's intelligence went beyond bomb construction. He was a master at avoiding capture. For 17 years, he managed to send bombs through the mail without being tracked. He studied investigation patterns, constantly changed his tactics, deliberately left false clues. In 1995, he forced the Washington Post and New York Times to publish his 35,000-word manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future. The document was a complex philosophical critique of modern technology, demonstrating not just intelligence, but ability to articulate sophisticated arguments about social psychology, technological development, and human nature. Ironically, it was this manifesto that led to his capture. His brother recognized the writing style and phraseology. But until then, Kaczynski had executed one of the longest and most successful individual terrorist campaigns in American history. The Kaczynski case raises disturbing questions about intelligence and isolation. He had been subject to controversial psychological experiments at Harvard, experiences that potentially contributed to his radicalization. His brilliant mind, instead of benefiting humanity through mathematics, became a weapon against it. Number 8. Harold Shipman. The Doctor of Death. Dr. Harold Shipman was a respected physician in England, trustworthy, dedicated to patients. He was also one of the most prolific serial killers in modern history, responsible for the deaths of at least 215 patients, possibly up to $250. Shipman used his medical intelligence and position of trust in devastating ways. As a doctor, he had access to lethal drugs, knowledge of how to cause death that would appear natural, and authority to sign death certificates without raising suspicion. For decades, he injected overdoses of morphine into elderly patients, mainly women. His intelligence manifested in the meticulous choice of victims and timing. He chose patients who lived alone, without close family members, who would ask difficult questions. He visited them at home, where there were no witnesses. He falsified medical records to create histories of illnesses that would justify sudden deaths. The most disturbing thing about Shipman was his ability to maintain a facade of compassionate doctor while committing serial murders. Colleagues described him as professional, dedicated. Patients trusted him completely. Families of victims frequently expressed gratitude for his care, not knowing he had murdered their loved ones. It was only when he tried to forge a victim's will to inherit her fortune that investigators finally began connecting the patterns. Statistical analysis revealed that the mortality rate among Shipman's patients was drastically higher than any other doctor in the region. Shipman never confessed, never explained his motivations. He committed suicide in prison in 2004, taking his secrets to the grave. But psychological analyses suggest he felt pleasure in the supreme power over life and death, that the intelligence meant to heal was perverted into an instrument of murder. Charles Sobhraj, known as the Serpent, was a master manipulator with an estimated IQ of 170. During the 1970s, he killed at least 12 Western tourists along the hippie trail in Asia, possibly many more. Sobhraj's intelligence manifested in his chameleon-like ability to assume identities. He spoke multiple languages fluently, could pass for various nationalities, forged documents with perfection. He wasn't just a killer, he was an artist of fraud and manipulation. His method was diabolical in its sophistication. Sobhraj approached young tourists, usually offering help or friendship. He drugged them, stole their passports and money, and frequently murdered them. Then he assumed their identities, using their documents to travel and continue his crimes. What made Sobhraj particularly dangerous was his deep understanding of human psychology. He knew exactly how to gain trust, how to identify vulnerable people, how to manipulate situations to his advantage. Witnesses described him as extremely charismatic, capable of convincing people of almost anything. His intelligence also manifested in how he avoided capture. He crossed borders constantly, changed appearances, used multiple identities simultaneously. When he was finally arrested in India in 1976, it was for drugging a group of French tourists who managed to escape, a rare mistake for someone normally so meticulous. Even in prison, Sobraj continued manipulating. He drugged guards and escaped, was recaptured, manipulated the legal system for decades. He gave interviews where he demonstrated pride in his exploits, showing zero remorse. His intelligence had been completely divorced from any moral sense. Number 6. Rodney Alcala. The dating game killer Rodney Alcala had an IQ of 160 and was photographically talented. He was also a serial killer who murdered at least 8 people, possibly over 100, during the 1970s. Alcala's story is particularly disturbing because he appeared as a contestant on the TV show, The Dating Game, in 1978, right in the middle of his murder spree. He won, charming the audience with his charm and intelligence. The woman who chose him refused to go out with him after the show, saying there was something creepy about him, an intuition that probably saved her life. Alcala's intelligence manifested in his manipulation skills and his ability to maintain a normal facade while committing horrible crimes. He used his camera as a hunting tool, photographing women and children under the pretext of modeling portfolios. These photographs helped him gain victims' trust, but there was another dimension of his intelligence that was even more sinister. Alcala represented himself at his trial, personally interrogating witnesses, including a survivor he had brutally attacked. Imagine the intellectual cruelty necessary to do this, using legal knowledge to prolong his victim's trauma. He was also meticulous in covering tracks. Alcala was arrested, convicted, and released multiple times due to legal technicalities that he himself frequently identified and exploited. His understanding of the judicial system rivaled that of professional lawyers. When he was finally definitively convicted in 2010, investigators found over 1,000 photographs of women and children in his storage. Many were never identified. Alcala died in prison in 2021, but the true number of his victims remains unknown. Number 5. Kristen Gilbert. The killer nurse. Kristen Gilbert was an intelligent and competent nurse who worked at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Massachusetts. Between 1995 and 1996, she murdered at least 4 patients, possibly dozens more, using epinephrine injections to induce heart attacks. Gilbert's intelligence manifested in her deep understanding of medicine and pharmacology. She knew exactly which drugs to use, in which doses, and how to make deaths appear as natural causes. She chose moments when she was alone with patients. There were no witnesses, and she could control the narrative. But there was another aspect of her intelligence that was psychologically fascinating. Gilbert apparently committed these murders partially for the thrill of saving patients in emergencies. She created medical crises that she herself could then heroically try to resolve. When she saved a patient, she received praise and attention. It was a distorted form of Munchausen syndrome by proxy taken to lethal extreme. Analysts noted that cardiac arrests during her shift were 3 times more frequent than during other nurses' shifts. But Gilbert was smart enough to vary her patterns, create confusion, point to other possible explanations. She almost escaped unpunished. It was only when colleagues finally reported their suspicions and a thorough investigation was conducted that undeniable patterns emerged. Even then, Gilbert tried to manipulate witnesses, fabricated alibis, used her medical knowledge to create doubt. During her trial, Gilbert's intelligence was simultaneously her weapon and her weakness. She was articulate, convincing, but also arrogant. This arrogance, common in high IQ criminals, eventually contributed to her life sentence. Number 4. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal. Jeffrey Dahmer had above-average IQ and a sophisticated understanding of chemistry, biology, and human behavior. Between 1978 and 1991, He murdered 17 young men, frequently involving necrophilia and cannibalism. Dahmer's intelligence manifested in his ability to attract victims, avoid detection for over a decade, and manipulate situations when confronted by authorities. On one infamous occasion, police arrived at his apartment after a victim escaped. Dahmer calmly convinced the officers it was just a domestic dispute, and they returned the victim, a 14-year-old boy, to him. The boy was murdered as soon as the police left. This interaction demonstrates not just intelligence, but extraordinary manipulation ability under extreme pressure. Dahmer instantly understood how to present the situation, what language to use, how to appear the reasonable person in contrast to the confused and traumatized victim. His intelligence also manifested in how he preserved trophies and experimented with bodies. Dahmer had chemical knowledge he used to try to create zombies, living but submissive victims. These experiments, though failed, showed methodological thinking and scientific knowledge applied to monstrous purposes. When finally captured, Dahmer confessed in detail, demonstrating exceptional memory and ability to articulate his mental processes. Psychiatrists were disturbed not by lack of intelligence, but by the application of clear intelligence to deeply disturbed impulses. Number 3, Elizabeth Holmes, the tech scammer. Elizabeth Holmes is not a murderer, but her intelligence applied to massive fraud destroyed lives in different ways. With an estimated IQ above 140, she founded Theranos at 19, promising to revolutionize blood testing with technology that simply didn't work. Holmes's malignant genius was in her ability to manipulate on a corporate scale. She studied figures like Steve Jobs, copied presentation aesthetics, developed an artificially deep voice to sound more authoritative. Every aspect of her public persona was calculatingly constructed to inspire confidence. She managed to raise over $700 million from sophisticated investors, build a board of directors with former secretaries of state and generals, and achieve a valuation of $9 billion, all based on technology that didn't work. This requires not just intelligence, but deep understanding of psychology, power, and how trust systems function. Holmes manipulated experts by showing only carefully selected pieces of information. She created environments of extreme secrecy that prevented verification. She used legal threats to silence dissenters. When internal scientists said the technology didn't work, she fired them or isolated them. The most disturbing aspect was that Theranos's faulty tests were used on real patients, potentially leading to misdiagnoses and inadequate treatments. People suffered real medical consequences because of her fraud. But Holmes continued the lie for years, never demonstrating genuine remorse until her conviction in 2022. Number 2. Bernard Madoff, the Ponzi scheme master. Bernard Madoff orchestrated the largest Ponzi scheme in history, defrauding investors of approximately $65 billion over decades. His financial intelligence was undeniable. He had been president of Nasdaq and was deeply respected on Wall Street. Madoff's malignant genius was in his understanding of investment psychology and trust. He didn't pursue clients aggressively. Instead, he made his fund exclusive, difficult to enter. This artificial exclusivity created perception of value and privilege. People begged to invest with him. Madoff also demonstrated sophisticated intelligence in maintaining the fraud. He generated meticulously detailed false statements, created complex systems of shell companies, manipulated records to appear legitimate in superficial audits. For decades, he deceived regulators, auditors, and sophisticated investors. His operation was so convincing that multiple SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission investigations failed to detect the fraud. An analyst named Harry Markopolos presented mathematical evidence that Madoff's returns were impossible, but was ignored for years. Madoff understood that people didn't want to believe that someone so respected, so established, could be fraudulent. The collapse came only in 2008, when the global financial crisis forced so many redemptions that Madoff could no longer pay investors with new investors' money. He confessed to his own sons, who reported him to authorities. The human impact was devastating. Families lost life savings. Charitable foundations were destroyed. Multiple victims committed suicide after losing everything. Madoff's own son committed suicide 2 years after his father's arrest. Madoff used his superior intelligence not to create value, but to destroy lives on a massive scale. The psychology behind brilliant criminal minds. Before we reveal number one, let's explore the fundamental psychological question: why do brilliant minds choose evil? Research in neuroscience and criminal psychology reveals fascinating patterns. Many high IQ criminals present traits of pathological narcissism, a deep belief in their superiority and right to exploit others. Their intelligence doesn't come accompanied by equivalent emotional empathy. There's also the factor of intellectual arrogance. Extremely intelligent people sometimes develop contempt for rules they see as created for ordinary people. They believe their intelligence places them above normal social and legal restrictions. Studies of high-functioning psychopaths show they frequently possess what researchers call Machiavellian intelligence, sophisticated capacity to manipulate others, but without moral foundation. They can intellectually understand moral concepts, but don't feel them emotionally. Interestingly, not every intelligent criminal exhibits classic psychopathy. Some, like Ted Kaczynski, seem to have developed distorted ideologies that rationalize destructive behavior. Others, like Kristen Gilbert, may have had complex psychological disorders where intelligence was applied to pathological impulses. Neuroscientist James Fallon, who studies psychopath brains, discovered something disturbing. He himself has brain patterns similar to serial killers, but never committed violent crimes. His conclusion: biology isn't destiny. Environment, choices, and moral development make critical difference. This brings us to a deep philosophical question. Is intelligence morally neutral? Is it simply a tool that can be applied for good or evil? Or is there special responsibility that comes with superior cognitive capacities? Most ethics experts argue that greater intelligence should bring greater moral responsibility, the capacity to foresee consequences, understand impact of actions on others, and develop sophisticated moral judgment. All these capacities increase with intelligence. Therefore, their abuse represents not just crime, but betrayal of human potential. Number 1. Shoko Asahara. The guru who wanted to destroy the world, Shoko Asahara, born Chizuo Matsumoto, had an estimated IQ between 140 and 150 and founded the Aum Shinrikyo cult in Japan. In 1995, cult members under his command released sarin gas in the Tokyo subway, killing 13 people and injuring over 6,000. But this atrocity was just a small part of much more apocalyptic plans. Asahara's malignant genius operated on multiple dimensions that make him possibly the most dangerous on our list. First, he demonstrated extraordinary psychological intelligence in recruitment and manipulation. Aum Shinrikyo attracted not just ordinary followers, but scientists, engineers, medical professionals, intelligent people Asahara managed to convince to abandon careers and dedicate themselves completely to him. How did he achieve this? Asahara studied extensively mind control techniques, meditation, sensory deprivation, and drugs. He created a sophisticated system where followers were progressively isolated from society, subjected to intense rituals, and eventually convinced that Asahara was enlightened and that the apocalypse was near. But what really distinguishes Asahara was his technical and scientific ambition. He didn't just want to create a cult, he wanted to acquire or develop weapons of mass destruction. Shinrikyo actively recruited scientists and established laboratories to develop biological and chemical agents. The cult tried to produce botulism and anthrax. It tried to buy nuclear weapons from post-Soviet Russia. It established a farm in Australia, partially to test sarin gas, far from surveillance. When the subway attack occurred, it wasn't an isolated act of violence. It was a test for much larger operations Asahara was planning. Investigations revealed that Aum Shinrikyo had detailed plans for coordinated attacks that could have killed thousands or even millions. Asahara had developed an apocalyptic ideology where mass destruction wasn't just justifiable, but necessary to purify the world and initiate a new era under his leadership. Asahara's intelligence also manifested in how he structured the cult to avoid detection and accountability. He created layers of compartmentalization where different members knew only parts of the overall plan. He manipulated followers to execute actions without full understanding, keeping himself isolated from direct connection to specific crimes. Even after his arrest, Asahara continued manipulating. During his trial, which lasted years, he alternated between feigning mental insanity and presenting sophisticated legal defenses. Psychiatrists debated whether he was genuinely psychotic or simply faking, demonstrating how his intelligence made him difficult to evaluate even for experts. Asahara was executed in 2018, but the legacy of his cult persists. Aum Shinrikyo, renamed Aleph, still exists in Japan, though intensely monitored. Some former members still venerate Asahara, demonstrating the lasting power of his manipulation. Asahara's case is particularly terrifying because it shows what a truly brilliant mind can achieve when completely divorced from empathy and moral restraints. He combined deep understanding of human psychology with technical and scientific ambition, creating possibly the most dangerous individual terrorist organization in modern history. Disturbing lessons. What these minds teach us now, that we've met these 10 brilliant minds who chose evil, what lessons can we extract? What patterns emerge? First, all demonstrate that intelligence without empathy is extremely dangerous. Cognitive capacity enables sophisticated planning, effective manipulation, and evasion of consequences. When not balanced by genuine concern for others' well-being, it becomes a tool of exploitation and destruction. Second, many exhibited deep intellectual arrogance. They saw themselves as superior to social rules, justified horrible actions through complex rationalizations, and felt intelligence gave them special rights. This arrogance frequently contributed both to their crimes and eventually to their captures. Third, most were extraordinarily skilled at manipulation. They could read people, identify weaknesses, exploit psychological vulnerabilities. This dark social intelligence allowed them to gain trust, create convincing facades, and keep their activities hidden for extended periods. Fourth, many demonstrated what psychologists call limited consequential thinking in moral areas, despite superior analytical capabilities in other domains. They could plan crimes meticulously, but seemed unable or unwilling to fully consider the human suffering they caused. Fifth, several exhibited dissociation between self-perception and reality. They saw themselves as heroes, visionaries, or victims of social misunderstanding, even while committing atrocities. This dissociation allowed them to maintain positive self-esteem despite objectively monstrous actions. From a prevention standpoint, these cases highlight the importance of early identification of problematic behaviors, even in intelligent individuals. Many showed warning signs years before serious crimes, cruelty to animals, interpersonal manipulation, minor violations of social norms. Intervention at these early stages could potentially have prevented escalations. There are also implications for how society values intelligence. We often put intelligent people on pedestals, assume that superior cognitive capacities correlate with superior moral character. These cases dramatically prove this isn't true. Intelligence should be recognized for what it is, a neutral capacity that can be applied for constructive or destructive purposes. What makes some more dangerous than others? Examining our 10 cases, fascinating differences emerge in how intelligence was applied to evil. Edmund Kemper and Jeffrey Dahmer used intelligence primarily to avoid capture and satisfy individual violent impulses. Their impact, though horrific for individual victims, was relatively limited in scale. In contrast, Bernard Madoff and Elizabeth Holmes applied intelligence to systemic frauds that harmed thousands. They didn't commit physical violence, but destroyed lives financially and emotionally on massive scale. Their operations required long-term planning, manipulation of complex systems, and ability to deceive not just individuals, but entire institutions. Ted Kaczynski and Shoko Asahara represent another category, ideologues who used intelligence to develop philosophical or spiritual justifications for violence. They weren't motivated by immediate personal gratification, but by distorted visions of how the world should be. This made them particularly dangerous because they saw violence as means to superior ends. Charles Sobhraj and Rodney Alcala demonstrated intelligence primarily in interpersonal domain, reading people, manipulating social situations, creating convincing personas. They were chameleons who could assume different identities as needed, making them exceptionally difficult to track. Kristen Gilbert and Harold Shipman occupy an especially disturbing category. Medical professionals who perverted knowledge meant to heal into instruments of murder. Their technical intelligence combined with positions of extreme trust created unique vulnerability for victims who literally placed their lives in their hands. The neuroscience of intelligent evil. Recent neuroscience research offers fascinating insights into how brains of intelligent criminals differ from normal people. Brain imaging studies reveal consistent patterns in many high-functioning criminals. Prefrontal areas responsible for planning and impulse control frequently show normal or even increased activity, explaining their sophisticated planning capacities. But limbic areas associated with emotional processing and empathy show reduced activity or abnormal connectivity patterns. This creates what neuroscientists call cognitive emotional dissociation. These individuals can intellectually understand that actions cause suffering, can even accurately predict victims' emotional reactions. But this knowledge doesn't generate appropriate emotional response in themselves. It's abstract knowledge without effective resonance. Researchers also discovered differences in brain reward systems. For most people, causing suffering to others activates aversion circuits. We feel discomfort seeing others suffer. But in high-functioning psychopaths, these same situations can activate reward circuits, especially when associated with feelings of control or dominance. This neurobiology isn't destiny, but creates vulnerability. When combined with environmental factors, developmental trauma, models of violent behavior, lack of early intervention, it can result in the profiles we explored. Detection and prevention. Can we identify dangerous geniuses before they act? This is perhaps the most important question for society. Can we identify intelligent individuals with potential for destructive behavior before they cause harm? The answer is complex. Predictive profiles are notoriously imprecise. The vast majority of people with identified risk factors never commit serious crimes. Labeling people as potentially dangerous based on psychological characteristics raises deep ethical questions and risk of devastating false positives. However, there are warning signs that trained professionals can identify, especially when multiple factors are present. Patterns of interpersonal manipulation starting early in life, not occasional, but systematic use of others as tools for personal objectives. Children and adolescents who consistently lie, manipulate, exploit others without apparent remorse deserve professional attention. Lack of appropriate emotional response to others' suffering, not just absence of active empathy, but genuine indifference or even pleasure when others suffer. Combined with superior intelligence, this is particularly concerning. Recurring fantasies about dominance, control, or violence that are elaborate and detailed. Many criminals on our list maintained extensive fantasies years before acting. When these fantasies are documented, shared, or show signs of actual planning, intervention is critical. Escalation of problematic behaviors, cruelty to animals progressing to manipulation of people, minor violations escalating to more serious ones. This escalation pattern, especially when combined with intelligence that enables avoiding consequences, is an alarm signal. Development of ideologies that dehumanize others or justify violence. Ted Kaczynski and Shoko Asahara didn't wake up one day deciding to commit terrorism. They developed complex belief systems over years that rationalized violence. Society's role, structures that enable or prevent. Important to recognize that these individuals didn't operate in a vacuum. Social structures, institutions, and cultural systems sometimes facilitated their activities. Harold Shipman exploited gaps in medical oversight. Bernard Madoff took advantage of regulatory failures and trust culture on Wall Street. Elizabeth Holmes manipulated a venture capital system that prioritizes charisma over rigorous verification. Charles Sobraj and Rodney Alcala operated in eras before digital communication and interconnected databases. Today, their crimes would be much harder to execute repeatedly. Shoko Asahara exploited religious freedoms and lenient laws about cults in Japan. Ted Kaczynski took advantage of vast American territory and limitations in pre-digital tracking. This suggests that prevention requires not just identification of dangerous individuals, but also development of institutional systems resistant to exploitation. Checks and balances, adequate oversight, communication between jurisdictions, protections for whistleblowers, all are essential. Cultural fascination with brilliant criminal minds. We should also examine our own fascination with these individuals. Why do stories of intelligent criminals capture public imagination in ways that common crimes don't? Part is genuine interest in human psychology. We want to understand how minds work, especially when they work in ways so divergent from the norm. There's real educational value in studying these cases. But there's also something more problematic. Media frequently glamorizes intelligent criminals, portraying them as fascinating anti-heroes. Films, series, podcasts can inadvertently create an aura of admirable genius around these individuals. It's crucial to maintain perspective. Intelligence applied to evil isn't admirable. It's tragic waste of human potential. Edmund Kemper could have used his IQ of 145 to contribute significantly to society. Ted Kaczynski could have continued making important mathematical contributions. Instead, they chose destruction. When we tell these stories, we must focus not just on the genius of the crimes, but on the real human suffering caused. The victims of Sarah Mitchell, Jennifer Walsh, Harold Shipman's patients, Bernard Madoff's investors, passengers in the Tokyo subway, these were real people with interrupted or destroyed lives. Final message: intelligence as responsibility. If there's a central message from this exploration, it's that intelligence isn't moral achievement. It's neutral capacity that comes with responsibility. For individuals gifted with superior cognitive capacities, this responsibility is even greater. Greater capacity to foresee consequences means greater moral obligation to consider impact of actions. Greater ability to influence others means greater need to use that influence ethically. Society must cultivate not just intelligence, but wisdom, capacity to apply intelligence for beneficial purposes aligned with human well-being. Education should emphasize moral development alongside cognitive development. Character is as important as capability. For parents, educators, mentors of exceptionally intelligent children, observe not just intellectual development, but also emotional and moral development. A child who can solve complex equations but can't care about classmates' suffering needs intervention, not just academic acceleration. For mental health professionals, recognize that superior intelligence can mask pathology. Criminals like those we explored were often described as charming, articulate, convincing. Sophisticated interpersonal skills don't indicate mental health or moral character. For criminal justice system, develop capacity to deal with exceptionally intelligent criminals who can manipulate legal processes, deceive evaluators, and exploit technicalities. This requires expertise and resources beyond typical criminal cases. Hopeful perspective. Most choose good. Finally, important to remember that for every brilliant mind that chose evil, there are thousands who chose good. For every Ted Kaczynski using mathematical intelligence for terrorism, there are hundreds of brilliant mathematicians working to advance human knowledge, solve complex problems, educate the next generation. For every Elizabeth Holmes defrauding investors, there are countless intelligent entrepreneurs building legitimate companies that create real value. For every Harold Shipman perverting medicine, there are millions of dedicated doctors saving lives daily. The reason these 10 cases are so fascinating is precisely because they're aberrations. They represent what happens when something goes terribly wrong in human development, when exceptional capacities are divorced from moral compass. Understanding these cases isn't about glorifying evil or creating morbid fascination. It's about understanding human potential across its entire spectrum, including dark extremes, so we can better cultivate the positive and prevent the negative. Each of us has choices about how to use our capacities, whether exceptional or ordinary. The intelligence, ability, influence we possess, these are tools. What we build with these tools defines our character and legacy. These 10 brilliant minds chose to build destruction. May their stories serve not as models, but as warnings about paths not taken, wasted potential, and moral responsibility that comes with every gift we possess. Closing. Thank you for watching until the end of this challenging episode. If you found this content valuable, leave your like, share with others interested in psychology and real crimes, and subscribe to the channel for more deep analyses. Leave in the comments, which of these cases did you find most disturbing? Do you think society does enough to identify and intervene with potentially dangerous individuals before they commit crimes? Are there other cases of exceptionally intelligent criminals we should explore in future videos? Remember, knowledge about the dark side of human nature isn't for morbid fascination, but for understanding that can help prevent future tragedies and cultivate better use of human potential. Until the next video, take care and look after each other.